A story is a tapestry made of many threads. There's the main through line that pulls the plot along, then the characters' up and down emotional journeys, interwoven with potential romances or mysteries. Braiding those threads together is all part of telling a good yarn. Some of these threads could be considered a subplot, a secondary plot string that runs parallel to the main plot, as ScreenCraft puts it. In screenwriting, you might hear the terms A story and B story, which apply to fiction as well. Subplots, or B stories, can intertwine with the main plot across the course of a novel, or only cross paths once. But if you have too many threads, too many subplots, you could end up with a tangled mess, something neither you nor the reader can untangle to make sense of your creation's purpose. There are risks and rewards to adding subplots to a novel, because every thread invites more complexity. Here, I'll give tips for successfully threading together subplots, alongside fellow editor, book coach, and YouTuber Leslie XPLovecat Horn. So as an editor, how often do you find yourself commenting on writers' subplots?
Commenting on them always, always. I often find that the subplots aren't fleshed out enough for it to be worth the space in the story. So I work a lot with writers of making sure that that is fully going throughout the entire book and doesn't get dropped or forgot about.
Not all stories include subplots, but they can serve a valuable purpose in deepening characterization by showing other facets of the characters, including their past experiences, revealing aspects of the world the reader isn't able to see in the main plot, adding thematic depth by reinforcing the theme in various scenarios, such as showing different characters' struggles with questions of motherhood, building tension through hinting at the antagonist's plans or presenting a mystery, providing tonal contrast, particularly if the main story is full of despair and needs a touch of levity to prevent a monotone reading experience, creating breathing room to vary the pacing and provide time for introspection, setting up sequels where smaller problems turn into a bigger focus in later books if you're writing a series. Let's dive into some of the most common subplot types. Stick around because we're going to reveal the biggest mistakes writers make with subplots and how to avoid them.
So let's get into the types of subplots. These are some categories of subplots you'll see across genres. So first we have romance. This is either for the main characters or secondary characters, like with Aragorn and Arwen from The Lord of the Rings being a famous example. In a romance novel like Book Lovers by Emily Henry, however, the romance is the main plot. And then other aspects are subplots, such as family drama or career aspirations. Next, we have secondary character arcs. This is when a minor character shows growth and change throughout the novel. A great example of this is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. At the beginning of the book, the protagonist's brother is an irresponsible, estranged sibling. We see his arc transform in interesting ways, with him revealing past struggles and stepping up as an unlikely ally. His arc is complete while supporting the protagonist's main journey. Next is ancillary goals. The protagonist has a primary goal, but they have another objective as well. In Binti by Nadia Okorafor, the main character wants to attend the most prestigious university in the galaxy, but also has to reconcile her cultural roots. Ancillary goals often involve more internal personal stakes, such as the protagonist's relationship with their parents or reckoning with past mistakes. Then there's backstory. This is revealing events that happen before the start of the main story. Lee Bardugo uses short flashbacks in Six of Crows, showing how the main cast of thieves became who they are, giving further context for their motivations in the present. These flashbacks carry their own narrative arcs, with the character facing a problem and reacting to the outcome. Then there's dramatic tension. This is a side story that has a secret connection to the main plot that becomes clear as the book goes on, raising the stakes for the protagonist. They might seem like completely separate storylines, but the reader anticipates that these threads will eventually converge. House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson revolves around a blood maid striving to escape poverty, giving her blood to nobles so they can maintain their health. A subplot emerges when she discovers that other blood maids have been disappearing. And finally, we have thematic resonance, and this is where the added scenes underscore a core theme. John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath has intercalary or in-between chapters about a turtle attempting to cross the road, which speaks to the challenges of a family migrating from Oklahoma to California during the Great Depression.
Subplots can be explored through the main character's perspective or presented as separate scenes in another character's point of view. The main plot and subplots might converge at a point of high conflict, such as the story's midpoint, rising action, or climax. Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice centers around the romance between Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, but the subplot around Elizabeth's sister eloping threatens to disgrace the Bennet family, contributing to the rising action and raising the stakes for Elizabeth. One more important thing to note. Just because a novel has multiple points of view doesn't mean those are all subplots. They might be parallel primary plots, which carry the same level of importance. For example, Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina is primarily a tragic romance about Anna Karenina, but Tolstoy dedicates the second half of the book to describing the farm life of Levin as a dual protagonist. Having parallel primary plots invites readers to compare and contrast the two main characters' journeys as they try to find happiness and fulfillment. Weaving in any type of subplot comes with risk, and we have 6 things for you to look out for in your writing. You can view these as litmus tests, ways to tug on the thread to make sure it's secured to the story. 1. The story has too many subplots. If you map out all your threads and it looks like an evidence board no one but you can decipher, you probably have too many subplots. The problem with this is that the reader spends so much time away from the main plot that it's easy to lose focus on the protagonist's actual goals, and it becomes harder to track what's important. You might also have too many subplots if your book is a whole box of yarn and way above the standard word count for your genre. So how many subplots should you have? A good rule of thumb is a maximum of 3, but it also depends on the overall length of the book. A doorstopper of a novel could have more than that, whereas a novella might benefit from not having a subplot at all if it's taking up space. To choose which subplot to cut, think about which one least affects the story. If you remove the plotline, what would happen to the main story? Could that impact be achieved some other way in the main plot? Simplifying the subplot is another option. Is there a way you could complete the same emotional or plot arc in a smaller number of scenes? Creating composite characters can help you achieve this, especially if you have a large cast. You can combine the characters' roles and reduce the total number of potential plot threads.
Danger number 2. The subplot becomes more interesting or more important than the main plot. An example of this would be the murder mystery the sister character is investigating is just way cooler than the protagonist's board gaming competition. In other words, the subplot has higher stakes than the main story, with the protagonist's small stakes goal feeling less consequential compared to matters of life or death. Sometimes you can let a vibrant subplot thread become the main plot. If it's consuming your page count, there's a reason. It likely means that subplot is more intriguing to you as the writer, and there's something you want more of in that story. Ask yourself, why is this important to me? Should it be the main plot instead? Or should this subplot be repurposed into a different story altogether?
3. The romantic subplot feels shoehorned. We all know stories where the writer tosses in a romantic entanglement simply because they think that's what readers or the market want to see, but the characters have all the romantic chemistry of 2 limp rags. You can often tell the romance isn't working if you're having to create contrived situations that don't fit the characters' normal personalities. If writing romance doesn't come naturally to you, don't feel like you need to include it. Not every reader wants a romantic subplot. Consider whether this relationship should just be a friendship instead of a romance, and go ahead and friend zone your protagonist. It could also be that the character is with the wrong person. Even if you initially planned on a particular couple getting together, it might be that in the course of writing, your characters tell you otherwise, and the sparks are flying with the villain instead of the childhood friend.
Danger number 4. The subplot doesn't serve a purpose. So your protagonist wants to kill the king, and at the same time, his best friend is trying to open a bakery. You might be adding this subplot because it sounds cool or fun, but it's not actually adding anything for the reader. If a subplot doesn't affect the protagonist in any way, then you might have a thread that needs to be cut. Would the bakery have an impact on the protagonist's goal of regicide? Probably not. It's distracting from the main plot and leaves the reader thinking, what was the point of that? One solution is to find a connection between the main plot and the subplot. In this scenario, maybe the two characters hatch a plan where the best friend poisons some cakes to deliver to the king for a feast. Ta-da! Now the subplot is necessary. Not all subplots need to connect to the main plot, as they can serve other purposes, such as world building and characterization. However, consider what this subplot is contributing to the book as a whole. What is it adding to the story that doesn't already exist in the main plot? As our friend and author Joe Butler recommended, subplots need to move the character, world, and plot forward, ideally at the same time. One powerful way of doing this, he suggests, is by having the subplot change a character's opinion or position on the big problem. These discoveries help set up a turn in the plot or character's choices later in the story.
5. The subplot creates uneven pacing. The side quest might interrupt a high-tension moment in the main plot. The character adopts a corgi right before gathering everyone in the room to solve the murder. This can drag out the pacing, especially if it doesn't add new tension or stakes. These digressions make readers impatient to return to the main story, and they feel bitter for every page they have to endure before they can get back to the good stuff. Of course, you never want any part of your book to feel purely like filler. This problem could be a question of placement. Maybe the subplot scenes need to occur at a slower point in the main storyline to match the level of urgency. This is especially true when you're trying to resolve a subplot near the story's climax, when the stakes are heating up. Now is not the time for corgis. See if you can resolve the subplot earlier or even during the resolution. You also want to be careful about spending too much time on a subplot without revisiting the main plot, since the amount of time you spend on a story thread signifies its level of importance to the reader. This is easy to fix by simply shortening those sections or spreading them out across the book, so the main plot to subplot ratio is more balanced.
And finally, number 6, a subplot is abandoned or left unresolved. TV shows are notorious for dropping subplots that don't test well with audiences, with no intent of tying up those loose ends. For fiction writers, unresolved subplots can become more of a problem when plotting a series, as subplots can easily be forgotten or become less relevant to the main plot over time. You want to make sure that your subplot, like the main plot, follows a narrative arc. Subplots should have a beginning, middle, and end where something or someone changes. A great method for tracking subplots is to use a chart or Excel spreadsheet with each chapter on the left and all the plot threads, including subplots, as named columns on the top. You can write a short description of what happens related to each plot thread in the relevant chapters so that you fully map the path from beginning to end. Looking at each plot thread chapter by chapter ensures you're not cutting any short or forgetting to touch on one frequently enough. Feel free to download a subplot chart template for this in the video description. Problems can arise whether you're plotting or pantsing, and it's perfectly normal to have short string or yarn ball subplots in your first draft. In either case, go back through your manuscript and focus on improving just the subplots to make sure everything ties together.
Subplots can help you craft a well-rounded story, but need care and attention to become a beautifully woven piece that feels cohesive. Be sure to check out Leslie's channel, XPLovecat Fiction, for more writing tips, especially for fantasy, sci-fi, and horror authors. And over on Leslie's channel, you can watch us tier rank bad writing advice. How do you feel about subplots? Tell us about your struggles and successes in the comments. Whatever you do, keep writing.